Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the absolute most practical, powerful frameworks ever created for understanding human behavior. We're talking about Dale Carnegie's absolute classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Let's get right into it, because what we're doing today is taking what could be some pretty dense psychological theory and turning it into highly actionable tools. These are strategies you can literally use today to connect with people, earn their trust, and navigate your daily life without ever having to resort to force or manipulation. So, picture this. You're going fishing. Are you going to bait your hook with a chocolate chip cookie? I mean, obviously not, right? Fish prefer worms. It sounds ridiculously simple, but it perfectly highlights a fundamental truth about our innate selfishness. When we interact with people, we forget this rule all the time. We constantly talk about what we like, what we want, and what our goals are. But as Britain's Prime Minister during World War I, Lloyd George, pointed out, you have to bait the hook to suit the fish. If you actually want to influence someone, you've got to stop pushing your own agenda and start focusing entirely on what they desire. Section 1. The core of human nature. Let's look at the absolute baseline wiring of the human brain, which is often completely counterintuitive. We usually have two starkly different ways we approach people. Our natural reflex is criticism, which instantly triggers the ego. On the flip side, we have praise, which actually triggers growth. To really grasp this, think about the famous test pilot Bob Hoover. He was flying a World War II propeller plane when both engines suddenly died mid-flight. He miraculously managed to crash land and save his passengers. And why did it happen? A young mechanic had accidentally filled his propeller plane with jet fuel. Now, Hoover had every right to scream and fire the guy on the spot, but instead, Hoover walked right up to this devastated young man and said he wanted him to service his plane again the very next day. Hoover intuitively knew what psychologist B.F. Skinner proved years ago. Praise and trust lead to growth. Criticism just triggers defensiveness and deep resentment. When you attack someone, you are not triggering their logic. You're just triggering their pride. And it's crucial to understand exactly why that works. As the founder of modern psychology, William James, said, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. People absolutely need to feel important. Take the story of a manager named George Johnson. He had an employee named Tom who was seriously underperforming. But instead of dragging Tom in to point out all his flaws, George called him in and sincerely praised his incredibly keen eye for detail. He told Tom he had the potential to be a top performer. And that one single moment of genuine, heartfelt appreciation completely flipped a switch. Tom's performance went through the roof. Why? Because honest appreciation feeds that ultimate human desire to know that our efforts are actually being seen. Section 2. How to build likability. We're shifting gears from the fundamental psychology to the actual everyday tools you can use to make an incredible first impression. Okay, here is your rapid-fire likability toolkit. First up, genuinely appreciate people. The legendary magician Howard Thurston didn't just walk out and do card tricks. Before every single show, he actively stood there and reminded himself how incredibly grateful he was for his audience. Second, smile warmly. There was this famously stern New York stockbroker named William Steinhardt who ran a personal experiment where he just started smiling at people. His wife, the building doorman, his coworkers. In just 2 months, his relationships were totally transformed, and honestly, even his business revenue went up. Finally, listen completely. Dale Carnegie himself once sat at a dinner party and listened with intense, genuine curiosity to a botanist for hours. He barely spoke a word the entire night, and later, that botanist called Carnegie a fascinating conversationalist. People just really want to be heard. This brings us perfectly to this beautiful wisdom from Maya Angelou, which really anchors this entire toolkit. She noted that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. When you deploy these tools, when you're smiling, when you're truly listening, when you're appreciating someone, you aren't trying to make yourself look interesting. You're making the other person feel seen. And that is the ultimate, undeniable secret to human connection. 50,000. That is a mind-blowing number, and it was the secret weapon of James Farley, who was a hugely influential figure in U.S. politics and the campaign manager for Franklin D. Roosevelt. Farley grew up with very little and lost his dad at age 10, but he cultivated this unbelievable ability to remember over 50,000 names and personal details. He understood better than anyone that to a person, their own name is the absolute sweetest and most important sound in any language. Remembering someone's name isn't about having some magical photographic memory. It's this subtle, profound compliment that tells them, hey, you matter enough for me to remember you. Section 3, winning people to your side. Because human interaction gets messy. Here's how you navigate that friction and actually get people on your team. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this section, memorize these 4 steps. First, welcome the disagreement. Seriously, it might be revealing a massive blind spot you have. Second, listen first, and do it without interrupting. Third, look for any tiny area of agreement that you can build on. And fourth, admit your mistakes. Because here is the hard truth. You actually cannot win an argument. If you lose, well, you lose. But if you win, you've just bruised the other person's ego and triggered all their defenses. A person convinced against their will remains of the exact same opinion. You've got to use these steps to sidestep the argument entirely. And this next story brilliantly shows that 4th step in action, admitting mistakes. These are the exact words Dale Carnegie used when a mounted police officer caught him walking his dog Rex without a leash in the park. For the 2nd time. Now, most of us would panic, get defensive, or start making up excuses, right? Carnegie did the exact opposite. He practically rushed up to the officer and enthusiastically admitted fault. He said he had no excuse and totally deserved the fine. By doing that, he instantly disarmed the officer's ego. The cop, suddenly stripped of his need to assert any authority, just completely softened and told Carnegie to just take the dog over the hill where he couldn't see him. Another fantastic tactic is the yes, yes principle. Think about it. When you start a conversation with a disagreement, a big no, the other person's ego defenses instantly lock down like a vault. But starting with yes builds this incredible psychological momentum. A life insurance salesman named Joseph Allison used this brilliantly on a really reluctant client. He didn't just come in pitching facts and figures. He asked, "You want your family taken care of, right?" The client said yes. And life insurance is a reliable way to do that, right? Another yes. By finding that early common ground, Allison kept the client from shutting down, which just naturally led the guy to buy the policy. Section 4. Leading without causing resentment. This is the ultimate test of your influence, figuring out how to change someone's behavior without offending their pride. Take a look at this tiny one-word shift. Giving feedback with the word but versus the word and. Imagine a parent saying, "We're so proud of your grades, Charlie, but if you worked harder in math, you'd do better." That but is a killer. It instantly makes the praise feel like a fake, manipulative setup for criticism. Now, just swap it. "We're proud of your grades this semester, and if you keep it up, your math grade can rise right along with the others." Calling attention to the mistake indirectly like that prevents the defensiveness and keeps Charlie feeling uplifted and motivated. It's the exact same dynamic when you look at giving direct orders versus asking questions. Let's be real, absolutely no one likes being barked at. It wounds our pride. But if you shift from commanding, "Do this right now," to asking, "How would you handle this?" or "Could you take a look at this?" you completely change the temperature of the room. Asking questions invites that person to contribute. It gives them a real sense of ownership over the solution, which naturally prevents any lingering resentment and makes them way more motivated to actually get the job done. So, what is this number 8 all about? It represents an 8-minute flashcard game. There was a father whose son was struggling horribly with algebra. The kid felt completely defeated and hopeless. Instead of sitting there lecturing him, the dad turned the homework into a high-speed game, with the ultimate goal being to finish the flashcards in under 8 minutes. That first night, it took 52 minutes. But instead of getting frustrated, the dad enthusiastically praised every single slight improvement. 48 minutes, then 45, then 41. He celebrated every tiny win until the boy eventually smashed that 8-minute mark. Praising the slightest improvement is exactly how you build people up to achieve things they thought were literally impossible. The whole core of leadership is captured perfectly right here by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. To wound a man in his dignity is a crime. There was a seasonal tax accountant who had the really tough job of letting employees go after the busy season ended. Initially, he just bluntly told them it was a temporary job, and it was over, which understandably left them feeling terrible. But then he changed his approach. He started sitting down and sincerely thanking them for their very specific, valuable contributions before breaking the news. The actual outcome was exactly the same. The job was ending, but the employees walked away feeling seen, respected, and valued. Preserving someone's pride is the ultimate mark of a truly effective leader. I really want to leave you with this lingering, provocative thought today. Who in your life are you currently trying to change by force when all they really want is just to be understood? Think about your coworkers, your partner, maybe your kids. We are constantly trying to push our own agendas. But if you can take a step back and apply Dale Carnegie's timeless wisdom, if you can remember to bait the hook to suit the fish, really listen completely, be quick to admit your own faults, and always preserve their dignity, you won't ever need force. You'll have genuine, lasting influence. Take just a moment today and try applying even one of these techniques to that relationship. You might be amazed by what happens.